It's me, Dax, also known as Nicole DeBoer. You are listening to Random Trek.
Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Random Trek. I am your fearful captain, Christopher Ingle, joined as always by my supremely augmented first officer, Commander Brennan, the Mystical Mar. Brennan, you're on trial.
Apparently, superior intellect breeds superior,
Resistance?
what's the word? I drawn a blank on the word. I can't believe it.
Today, we are taking a look at the Season 2, Episode 2 of Strange New Worlds, Ad Astra per Aspera.
Ambition, that's the word I was thinking.
Oh. Yes, superior intellect breeds superior ambition. Oh, what they said about Khan. Anyway. But yes, we are taking a look at Ad Astra per Aspera in the second season. This is the one where Unachin Riley is put on trial for sedition, for being an augment, for being augmented, for being an Illurian, whatever way you want to put it. She is put on trial for being who she is and has to be defended as such. Brennan, you and I seem to have an interesting liking history with these trial episodes. Wouldn't you agree?
There's some good ones. There are some very good ones.
I have not found a trial episode of Star Trek yet that I have not liked. Legal drama and Star Trek work so well together. Thinking back to the court martial with Kirk, which turned into a two-parter. That was that there's a great one. Measure of a Man, which we've talked about.
The Drumhead.
Oh yeah, so good. Drumhead. Drumhead is another fabulous episode. We have not talked about that, but boy, will we when it does. And even the episode with the two Qs and the question about the right to commit suicide in Voyager, another great trial type episode. So this is right in that vein, asking interesting questions. It's so good. What did you think going into this one?
Well, this episode was quite good, I thought. I remember when I first saw it, going, wow, this is good stuff. Because Strange New Worlds has not disappointed yet.
Yeah, and this last season was a great season. From beginning to end.
Wait till next year to get the third season.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate that we're going to have to wait. But it'll be worth it because we do know we're going to get a fourth season. So that works.
Yeah.
That works. For me, I love legal dramas. I really enjoy legal dramas in general. And so when a courtroom scene or a courtroom movie is done right, it's just so powerful. That whole question of how are they going to get out of this? How is Una going to be relieved? What is going to get her out of this? And the tactic that is used, I'm so impressed with, and we definitely are going to talk about it as we talk about this episode. But it's clever. It works, but it also asks questions as well when we talk about the rights of individuals in the world today. This has allegory in LGBTQ 100% today.
Yeah.
And the idea of here we're talking augments, but what about trans rights? What about gay rights? What about, a lot of rights which for a long time were questioned? Can a gay couple have insurance, for one another? I can go on and on and on. The idea of rights in this community has been there. So and this is such a heavy allegory for that.
Indeed.
But let's get right into it. So at the end of season 1, Una Riley was arrested by Starfleet, by Pike's girlfriend, of all people. She was arrested for being Illyrian. Now, we learned this earlier in the season, and Pike kept it a secret. Pike did not give out that information. But we come here now, we open up, Pike goes to the Illyrian planet, which, by the way, is a really neat scene going up. This planet, in terms of the atmosphere, is not breathable by human beings. They cannot survive in this atmosphere, but Illyrians can, thanks to genetic modification, which most surviving Illyrians have had. They can do it.
Which the Federation has
Federation
looked down upon for years.
ever since the eugenics wars.
Ever since Cloninian Singh.
So he finds a civil rights attorney that's Illyrian. Her name is Nira Katal. And manages to convince her to become the counsel for number 1, but also because her and Una have a history together. And she knows Una very much. But of course, they had a falling out. The prosecution is led by Captain Battelle, Pike's girlfriend. And basically, her case is that Una Riley violated Starfleet's genetic modification laws by hiding her identity. She lied on her application to Starfleet, and so she broke the law. That's her case. Okay. And they basically they say, look, your record is impeccable. Don't get us wrong, and we appreciate everything you've done. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna offer you a deal. The deal is no jail time. No jail time, but a dishonorable discommendation, and you will be kicked out of Starfleet. That's the deal. And Una says, no, I will not do that.
A dishonorable discharge.
Right, a dishonorable discharge. Basically, a slap on the wrist, but what that means is that everything that she's built up and worked for would be worth nothing.
Yes.
It'd be white. And that's not what Una wants. Una wants to be Una, and being part of Starfleet is a part of that. So Nira, her attorney, argues that the law itself is unjust and it is not applied consistently. In fact, Starfleet laws often are not applied consistently. For example, she calls Admiral Robert April to the stand. And asks, basically, hey, what is General Order 1? That's the Prime Directive. And when you broke the Prime Directive, why didn't you get in trouble? I'm simplifying it, but why didn't you get in trouble?
Yeah.
Well, the Prime Directive is broken in a captain's discretion under extreme circumstances, and that's at captain's discretion. Interesting. So but basically, yes, she tears him down. You broke the Prime Directive. You broke the rules. End of story. The attorney gets into a little bit of trouble for this, but luckily she's not from Starfleet. Then she calls up La'an and says, hey, La'an, what's your last name again? Noonien Singh. Any relation? Yes. Kind of admitting that, she is not augmented, but she is from stock that was. And basically uses Una as a kind of a matter-of-fact thing that, yes, he agrees that, we can't have this. And she sets it all up. Interestingly. And it looks like she's losing this case. Meanwhile, during this process, La'an is trying to figure out who ratted Una out.
Mm-hmm.
Who let Starfleet know about this? She goes to Uhura, says, "Hey, I need access to her logs," and Uhura says, "Absolutely not. That's against the law. I will not do it. I will not follow that order."
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of bugs her. What she's actually worried about is that her personal logs were used because she knew, she found out about it, and are in her personal logs. She wanted to figure this out if someone took it, but again, the law is the law. Eventually, she says, "You know what? I'm gonna put Una on the stand. We've got to do something. I've got to put him on the stand because Starfleet is very clear. Una is Illyrian. She is genetically modified. She did lie to get into Starfleet. We can't argue that. Those are facts. So what are we going to look at here? So number one testifies about the oppression and marginalization that Illyrians received in her childhood. How being rescued and saved by Starfleet and being refugees when they were younger, because they were a species that approved of genetic modifications, there was a choice. Starfleet and the Federation said, "We'll help you. You can stay with us, but you have to reject all of your genetic modifications." And that's part of their culture. And so half of the Illyrians did it and half of them didn't, and they segregated them. In order to save them, they decided to try to pass as the Illyrians that gave it up. But in reality, as she points out too, like many Illyrians, they didn't. They hid it. They had to hide who they were. So she believes still in Starfleet, though. Starfleet saved her. She believes in the diversity of Starfleet, and that is why she lied. She lied because she wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than herself, that could help others. And she also reveals that she was the individual that ratted herself out.
Mm.
She told Starfleet of her genetic status.
You wanted to be seen.
She wanted to be seen. That was something she said. But what's really interesting here is that, she is set up. It doesn't look good for her.
Mm-hmm.
So Nira basically argues that number one, went through a lot of problems, and everyone's going, "Look, objection. What does her early life have to do with anything? It's emotional." In fact, the head prosecutor is a Vulcan, and he gets up and he says, "Your story is compelling, but it's emotional and irrelevant. You broke the law. End of story." But Nira does one final thing in her closing statement that seals the deal, that saves Una. She gets out the Starfleet manual, the same one that has the regulations against genetically modified individuals, and she opens it up to the section about asylum. And there are 3 criteria for asylum. One is that the individual in regards to asylum must be suffering or oppressed from political or religious persecution.
I think she meets that
She
qualification.
met that qualification.
Hmm.
Number 2, she has to ask for help. By ratting herself out to Starfleet, she was asking for help.
Yep.
And the third is that it must be granted by a Starfleet captain and ratified by an oversight council. It was, in a way, granted by Pike. And the council that is charging her now has the power to ratify her coming into Starfleet as asylum and not as some form of sedition.
Mm-hmm.
And so the council goes away to deliberate, and they come out and they go, you know what? Yeah, she broke the law. She is an augment.
Mm-hmm.
And we cannot have augments out for a reason. It's dangerous. And she's right. The history we've had up to this point with the eugenics wars and what Khan would do in the future. Yeah. It's a scary idea.
Mm-hmm.
But she also says that it's important that we understand we must look at every case individually. We have to.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are people like this who are a decorated Starfleet officer who want to make the world a better place and are asking for help, and we're not looking at them. And maybe we should change things. We can't change everything. We can't change the world. But in regards to Una Chin Riley, she is not guilty of sedition. And we grant her asylum.
Yep.
And so she is it works. She goes back to the ship. Nira is thrilled. They're congratulating her. Nira, by the way, I forgot to mention at the beginning, the reason why Nira took the case wasn't so much Una. Nira has fought the Federation before, and the Federation has swept her cases under the rug every time.
Yep.
She's never had a chance against the Federation. Being that she won this one, and they all, and Una says, but you won on a technicality. It's a start.
Yep. It's a start.
She got the Federation to notice her people.
The first step.
Mm-hmm.
First step.
And so, you could tell there's a relationship between those two. I think there was some undertones there. There was a deeper relationship somewhere, but she transports out. Una resumes her first officer duties, tells everybody, get back to work, go, because everyone's there to see her. And Pike, in the last thing he do in a really touching moment, just him and his first officer, he gives her the biggest hug in the world.
Yep.
And he was at risk too, because he had hit it, and they knew this. He knew it.
He was accused of conspiracy.
His career was so. Nira's defense was not only for Una, but for Pike.
Yeah.
So that is the episode, and I have to talk about the title, because the title matters in Una's speech
very much.
The title Ad Astra per Aspera translates in Latin roughly adversity with the stars, or through the stars.
To the stars through adversity.
And the idea being that she looked to the stars and saw the potential to get out of her situation, to be more. And that it was Starfleet's motto early on.
And that is Star Trek's ideal in a nutshell.
This is so good. Really, like, again, this is another case of Star Trek really hitting it home here. They talk about in the case of her being persecuted and what that felt like, and that she couldn't be herself, she had to hide herself. And there are cases today when we talk about gender rights or trans rights of people being subjugated because of laws the way they were or are, as some cases are.
Because some laws are wrong.
And
as Nira points out,
right,
slavery was once legal. Apartheid was legal.
Yep.
Many things were legal that were wrong.
The United States has had a horrible history. Slavery is definitely a big one. I think of the don't ask, don't tell policies.
Yeah, indeed.
In the military, and you couldn't be gay. How about not allowing women in combat?
Yeah.
These things are ridiculous. It wasn't even until the late 20th century that a woman could even be a pilot. You couldn't even be a pilot.
Yeah. The laws were against it.
It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so persecuting a person based on who they are on a technicality is callous and cold.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find interesting in this is that we don't really have a true antagonist here. It's not like we had somebody accusing her.
Yeah.
She
But
turned
Marie
herself
the
in.
Till was not the villain.
She wasn't. No, in fact, in a lot of ways, she was on the side of Una, but she's doing her job. She has a
Mm-hmm.
job to do, and she's got to
Yeah.
do it. But what I really like here is that this is an indictment of the system, not a person. It's not Una against her prosecutor, Una against an accuser. No, it's Una against society. And the enlightened society of the Federation. It's fascinating when we get to poke these little holes in this and get to see the growth and development. Now,
Yeah.
what's really interesting here, though, is that this is an area that does not receive a lot of moving forward. We have evidence of this. Fast forward to one Julian Bashir.
Yes, exactly.
Julian Bashir was genetically modified. Not it wasn't a matter in his case of they were trying to do anything. He was behind. He was slower. His parents made a call.
Yeah.
We need to help our child as much as we can, and they did. So Julian could live up to his own potential.
And when that
And
was revealed, his parents had to go to jail.
yes, there had to be
Or
blood.
a penal colony, I
If you
should say.
remember that episode, so they need. I believe they said the Federation needs their pound of flesh,
Mm-hmm.
and so Julian was not persecuted for that, but his father took the hit
Yes.
and
Yeah.
had to go to the penal colony.
Yeah.
Those so far in our experience, these are the two major augments that have been affected on this side of it.
Yes.
We're not talking Khan or even the augments of the 21st century.
Malik and the other guys.
Yeah. We're talking like our good guys are, and this is what's interesting. We also see what happens with the augments where things didn't go quite right, but still persecuted,
Yes.
mistreated. Oh, even the young lady in that Flowers for Algernon kind of scenario.
Yes.
Where they helped her out and
Chrysalis.
thank you. Yeah, it ended up reverting. Starfleet didn't help.
Yep.
Federation, nobody came to their aid. They stuffed them away in a facility, called it humane, and made it a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
None of these augments asked for this. None of them. And we're going to punish them and not allow them to be who they are inside simply because of fear?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't work for me.
Yeah. It's an incredible episode because like art does, it holds a mirror up to society. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I like about this episode is when Nira explains why she loves the law. Because at its peak, it gives us an ideal. I believe that very strongly with the U.S. Constitution. Mm-hmm. No matter what shenanigans are going on otherwise, the ideals of the Constitution are what we should strive toward. Do we always get there? No. But the ideal is there. And one would hope that that ideal eventually leads us to the right place. The same applies in this episode.
I really like to with this that her crewmates stuck up for her.
Indeed.
The doctor, um, it was the
Spock,
doctor, Spock,
La'an,
La'an, they all stuck up for her.
Pike, of
100%.
course.
Yeah. They all stuck up for her willingly. And we get a little preview of something to come about her love of Gilbert and Sullivan.
Yes, exactly.
That was a nice touch that, later on that pays off in the musical episode. I do like that.
Yes, that's a very nice
But
touch.
once again, a very human quality that I like. Yeah, this is so good. And then this would also play on because as we know, she says it, ad Astra per Aspera is the motto of Starfleet.
Or
And
was at one
well,
time.
it will be again,
Yes.
because we learn with in actually later on down the line in Strange New Worlds, the crossover episode.
Yes, those old scientists.
Those old scientists, yes. We learn that Boimler has a numero uno poster in his locker that says ad Astra per Aspera. He aspires.
It's the recruitment poster for Starfleet.
She becomes the poster girl, as it were, for recruiting in Starfleet.
Which is amazing if you think about it.
Yeah. And think about it, historically, this is that moment that creates that. That's probably why Starfleet did that. She's the ideal candidate for what Starfleet stands for.
Yeah.
But we're talking here about what Starfleet stands for, and you and I have an idea. We've been watching Star Trek for years of what the Federation of Starfleet stand for.
Yep.
But I gotta say, there are moments like this that really show the dirt in the Federation and how human the Federation is.
And as utopic as it is, there are still problems. Any society, no matter how good, it's going to have problems.
We come across members of Starfleet consistently that create problems. I'm thinking in the Mirror Universe, Admiral Marcus. Still Federation, still, I think the standards are the same, I would think. Who was ready to go to war with the Klingons. No problem.
You mean in the JJ universe?
Oh yeah, JJ. Sorry, the JJ verse, not the Kelvin verse, not the Mirror
Kelvin verse. There you
Kelvin
go.
verse. Thank you. I'm thinking of Star Trek VI and the conspiracy that was going on with Colonel Odo.
Colonel West.
Colonel West. It's Colonel Odo to me. I look at him and go, that's Odo.
And even Admiral Cartwright.
Yeah, Admiral Cartwright, also part of that.
One of the most important men in Starfleet.
Again, that really dark image, and any number of Starfleet admirals at the top controlling Starfleet.
Nora Seti.
Yeah.
Nora Seti. Yeah.
Sati. Admiral Pressman.
Yes.
Pegasus.
Yes.
He nearly blew up the Treaty of Algernon with his actions with the Pegasus.
Yes.
We get admirals all the time. Admiral Dougherty in Insurrection.
Trouble.
But they all do the things that they do in the name of Federation security. The Admiral, the Admiral in Deep Space Nine that set up the power grid loss on Earth.
Oh, yes. I forget what his name was.
I can't think of his name right now. But that one too. But everything that all these guys did was in the name of the betterment of the Federation and the protection of the Federation.
And not to get political, but how often do we hear that in our home country?
If you paid attention to the election and any debates and rhetoric and everything, both sides are all about, we're trying to save this country.
Everything that we're doing is for the country.
Right. But at what point does that become an excuse? At what point does that become a problem? We see that in this episode. One individual who we know has an impeccable history, going
Indeed.
all the way back to the 1960s.
That's very true.
Very true. The first flag officer, the first female flag officer we see. You know, I'm still amazed that this was an issue, and making her into an augment. It was a brilliant stroke from the
It
writer's
really
perspective.
was, yeah.
You know, you look at her, she looks human, which goes to the old Star Trek joke.
Yes, indeed.
You know, but she does. She looks human, and actually, that plays into it because she said we could pass as human.
Passing, yeah.
Passing. There's another subject,
and there are many real world comparisons to that. Racially passing.
Yep.
Gender passing.
Yep.
But yeah, it really touches on some big themes.
Yeah, this thing was just done so well. The courtroom scenes are done fabulously, and it's quick. It doesn't drag. They get to their points, and I really do like it. Clever thinking on the attorney's part. Very clever thinking.
Very much in the keeping of classic courtroom movies.
Maybe a little too convenient.
They always got that one card up their sleeve.
Yeah. She was so clever with it.
But yeah, it's a wonderful, it's funny, and it's also a great La'an Noonien Singh episode. Because her story parallels this.
Right.
He couldn't choose who her ancestor was. It just happened to be.
Yeah. I was really, I'm not going to say concerned, but when Strange New Worlds was announced, or not, actually it was Discovery. Technically it was Discovery. During Discovery's run in the second season, when they announced, at the start of the second season, they were like, Anson Mount is Christopher Pike. And I saw that and I went, yeah, I buy that, because I liked him as Black Bolt.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of the series that he was in.
The exploding head, Black Bolt.
Inhumans was not that great, but he was really good as the leader. And I was I buy him as Pike. They announced that Rebecca Romijn was going to play number 1. And I was like, no way. Because that was famously played by, that was famously played by Michelle Barrett Roddenberry.
Yes.
So I was like, can she pull this off? There's a strength in that character. Can she do it? I wasn't sure. But not only did she look the part, she acted the part and pulled the part.
Indeed, she did.
And this episode, ultimately, and she had one when we first found out she was Illyrian in the first season.
Yeah.
That was good. But this solidifies that arc and made me go, this is my first officer.
This is the perfect casting.
Yeah, this is great. And I can't wait to see what happens to her character as time goes along. Because we know she doesn't go into the second 5-year mission. The Kirk years. We know that. So I'm curious to see what will happen to her. I don't think we lose her because she becomes the poster child. So, but I'm just really hopeful to see what happens to her. But this episode solidifies it. This is it. She is the star in here, and her testimony is heartbreaking and yet is a perfect mirror of what has happened in our history and in our present with so many subjugated groups.
Indeed.
So, for me, this one, even just by itself, besides the series, is a high recommendation.
Yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah, if you like courtroom dramas, it's a great episode. If you like it where, the system gets it stuck to them, I like it. This works. It is a little utopian and a little happier. It is. That's not a negative to it. It just is, the nature.
And it's what we need right now.
We need it right now. I agree.
We do.
And 2 days ago was Rebecca Lemoyne's birthday. So happy Starfleet.
Yay!
Rebecca Lemoyne. Yes.
Mhm.
Who I cannot believe it is 52.
Man, you don't look it.
Does not look it. Mm-mm. No, no, no.
Yep.
Final thoughts.
An extraordinary examination of why the law needs to be called into question.
Mm-hmm.
The system needs to be questioned.
Yes.
Because if we don't question it, it stagnates
Mm-hmm.
and dies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just because something is a law doesn't mean it's right.
Absolutely.
And I think it was Thoreau who talked about civil disobedience.
Yes, you did.
And the idea that if you see something wrong, you have an obligation as an American, and these are his words, they have an obligation as an American to peacefully rebel against that law. And I find it very interesting that these words resonated well into the 1960s when Dr. Martin Luther King himself almost verbatim reiterates that sentimentality and that word.
Gandhi
It was
did as well.
Gandhi as well. Well, there you go. This is fabulous.
It
I
is.
would use this. I would use this as a teachable experience, talking about civil rights, and
Mhm.
this is ripe. Please watch it, check it out, and of course, we keep recommending it, and we'll always do it. Watch all of Strange New Worlds.
It's an excellent show.
Yes,
Excellent.
and this season just killed it.
Yep.
Oh,
We got some of the best episodes.
and yeah, the musical, the crossover. Oh, so great.
Yes, so good.
But the happy train does not stop here, Brennan,
Oh boy.
because next week we go to the original series, and our randomizer has pulled up a whale.
It's given us what Scott Nance calls the Citizen Kane of Star Trek.
We will be watching season 1, episode 28 of Star Trek the original series, The City on the Edge Forever.
Oh my word, yes.
This is here with Joan Collins and all of her lens flare beauty.
Yes. Oh yes. Mhm.
This was the first one that I truly noticed in the original series. The focus on the
The
eyes.
fuzzy cam.
Yeah, the fuzzy cam. Yeah. So, and we're looking to get a guest. We don't know who our guest will be, but this is too big to do alone. We got to talk this one. So we will see what happens. But Brennan, where can the people find you?
Well, you can find me on X for the time being at Brennan Mystical. You can find me on Blue Sky, Brennan Moore. You can find me on Threads and Instagram at Brennan Blue. And YouTube, Apple, and Spotify at Page Turners They Were Not.
You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at CIngle1984. But as always, we end every episode. Kapah! And live long and prosper.
For Astra, and peace and long life.